All right, welcome back to Off the Crypto Cuff. I'm Jesse. This is Jeff. We're your hosts. It's two friends having a discussion either about crypto, current events, anything, politics, anything goes basically between the two of us. While we have a conversation, we have a drink, and we basically talk, have discussion during the drink. And when we're done with our conversation. Tonight, I am having some little shout out to Maryland. Distillery here, Tobacco Barn. It's got a little Maryland flag right on top. It's pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Picked it up a while back. So, what you have in there?
Bardstown.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. Still working on it.
All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're kind of a couple things we had discussed a little bit before here we get started. I guess I'll bring up mine right away. The big thing that happened yesterday was Ted Cruz was able to get past bipartisan to overturn a ruling that the Biden administration put in place. What was basically imposing regulations on software developers of the decentralized financial technology. Basically what it was is the rule defined developers as brokers, even though they did not touch any kind of crypto. Nothing was being exchanged. They were just developing on the networks. So it was kind of, it was almost a way of pushing down the crypto networks and stuff like that, and pushing any kind of, I feel like any kind of future development potentially is, makes people.
There's a smart that affects smart contracts, decentralized applications. So basically it stifles the potential of innovation.
Yeah.
At least within U.S. borders, because there's a lot of different types of applications that are being built. And, with a regulation like that, if you have to go get a broker's license to build an application, it's going to be an uphill battle. So getting that overturned is a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully it'll help us. Also, I feel like it paves the way for more stuff to be passed actually through, Congress, like they should be passed. So they don't have to be, executive orders penciled by the president to make it happen. So, hopefully this is a good thing. Hopefully we'll see more traction on crypto and our government and what they're going to be doing. And I think this is a big first step, I think, for us. So.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's good news. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. I kept seeing the emails coming across today about it, and I was like, oh, that's it seems like something pretty good to kind of bring up, but also just it seemed to me like a really, because that's one of the things we want to see that happen, because I think once that happens, we'll things will gain a lot more traction. I think the U.S. will get behind it, hopefully, and crypto, and I think being a world power, a lot of people will see that and kind of follow suit. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we already know this administration is very pro crypto. I don't know. I didn't watch the full address yet from last night. I don't know if he brought up anything during the address about crypto. Did you hear anything about that?
I did not finish the address, and as far as up to the point that I've listened, I haven't heard anything specific. But here's actually something that did happen. It happened over the weekend. Is the initial basket for the crypto reserve was announced, and the list was more or less interesting, but also kind of like, okay, could I mildly understand it? It smells like insiders to me from some of the names on it.
Okay,
but I can't.
Now this is what they talked about early. I think they talked about this early in the week or last week. Basically, Trump wants to use crypto as have a reserve, essentially, of crypto. Kind of something we've kind of talked about in the past. I think. I don't know. Did they talk about maybe potentially? I didn't look into it, so I don't really know. Did they talk about anything potentially tying it to the dollar?
No, that has not been announced yet. But several people were making counterpoints. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, XRP, and Solana.
Okay, that's the list.
That's
like
the list.
Unofficial list, essentially. It's like
As of right now, that's the official list.
Okay.
Well, no, there's a meeting this Friday. No, that hasn't happened yet, and there's going to be a lot of key players there. Microsailor's going to be there. There's going to be somebody there from the Exodus. They actually have a decentralized application. I think they're a wallet, and they are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. But what makes their stock unique? Their stocks or their common stock is actually minted on Algorand, so they're going to be there. So there's going. I think Charles Hoskins is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of people there. There's an official list. I don't have it immediately available,
right.
But there's an official list of people that are going to be there. So there's going to be a broad stroke of representation.
And what's this meeting?
It's a meeting about crypto. It's about hosted at the White House with the president.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So I mean, things are moving forward. It's just, if you're watching like sentiment is said, we've had a lot of crashes recently. The market's, bled a couple times, and people are like, we voted for, to make it, make crypto go up. And I'm like, well, things take time, especially when you want to do things above board.
Right.
You have to allow things to bake a little bit, and the waters is just going to get rough. Yeah. I mean, there's still some sentiment out there that people are believing that a super cycle is still, within the near future. I don't know if I'm ready to change my thesis on it yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, if the stars align,
it's
really what we're looking for. I mean, it's also, the thing is like nothing moves fast. We saw the bump in the beginning because it was just people hoping. It was like. It's like the news. It's like everything kind of pumped it. So it's, XRP pumped for a couple days ago pretty decently. It was one of the few that did. But yeah, I know the stock market in general has not been good right now either. So it's,
it is what it is. I'm not really stressing it. Is like I've got more or less what I consider my strong basket. I'm not invested. Well, I more or less I had even distribution. So some I ended up with more than others, and as the price goes up, I'll be heavier all of a sudden because it depends on how the market plays out. But I am not a fan of government picking winners and losers. And Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, actually said that Bitcoin by itself was fine. Which I kind of agree with, because being the dinosaur it's the oldest, it's the original. And then anything else should have been done by a weighted index. So basically that way it would actually take picking any winner or loser out. So by actually naming these cryptos the way they were, that's why to me it smells like, there was some favoritism at play and, be outside of merit.
Right. Well, that's why I asked if this is like the official, unofficial, or official, unofficial list. It's like, because that doesn't seem right to me that they should name cryptos. But I mean, also like it's going to come out. If this, you're talking about the potential reserve. So this is the list of the potential ones for reserve.
So
I mean, it's going to come out eventually. Like they're not going to pick things that are not good, right?
Well, hopefully there's one of the list, but I don't want to name it. So for people that know, but there's one on the list that should not be there, in my opinion. It's an American-made thing, but it should be there, in my opinion. And there's a couple American-made things that are not on the list that should be, and that's why I say a weighted index would have been the most fair way to do it. And you could start off is like this is the US weighted index, and whatever doesn't make it, whatever the terms are, you don't well define the terms, what the requirements are. Typically those are measured by market cap, not necessarily utility. We're here over utility, so that was just basically. And
I get what you're saying. The index makes more sense. It's like it's kind of a fair game that play.
It becomes a lot fairer than just that. I mean, yes, you're going to get stuff in there that doesn't really make sense just because of the way speculative markets work.
You have the
But when the
criteria.
market starts working itself out, then the things that don't belong will slowly get weighted out.
Yeah, that's just like the S&P and the stuff like that. It's the same thing. Like
Right.
it's yeah. Yeah, you have to meet certain criteria to get to be a part of it. So it's you are in or out. You can fall in, you can fall out. Yeah.
Exactly.
So no, that makes sense. I agree with that. Yeah. So yeah. So you had some other things. You said you were posting some things to X that you wanted to.
Well, I'm running an experiment on X. I just go ahead and say it. My handle is at Excalibur Algo. So
Isn't that in the don't you put that in the description?
if it's not, I need to add it.
Yeah, good.
And if you're on X, we need to add yours too.
Yeah, I'm not, unfortunately. I mean, I think I am, but I'm not active on it.
Yeah. So after I resurrected my account, because of the YouTube channel and trying to expand our reach a little bit, just trying to get more active on there. And then while playing around with the app, I actually stumbled across Grok. I'm like, okay, what is this? And start playing around with it, and effectively, it's XAI or Elon Musk's version of ChatGPT. I just toyed around with it just a little bit, goofing off. And then the beta 3 for Grok 3 came out. And then I realized, okay, now there's grok.com, which is a separate application. So spawned an idea because it has a feature for deep search for really doing research and pulling things back. And I'm trying to find the most factual information possible, especially in the space. And, we repeat it, and I try to live by it, is do your own research, which kind of gets hard, especially when things get really technical. AI is really good at, one, doing the research, and two, is actually really good at breaking down complex topics into simple ways.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Right.
that's the whole sell point with AI right now. It's like
Right.
it's making your life easier essentially. So,
Right. It is making my life easier, but it is not a replacement for human intuition or actually human reasoning.
right.
And one of the kind of the examples I could actually specify before we get into the articles, because I want to kind of give background first,
Right.
is I did start actually using it, for my regular job and programming. Well, Grok actually falls the same pitfalls that programmers do. Bad documentation.
Right.
I mean, quite literally. So basically one of the things that I ended up having to do is implement metrics into an application. And OpenTelemetry is actually really cool. It's got a really robust API, but they actually have two SDKs. They have the V1, but V2 is experimental, and V2 is disabled by default unless you build it in.
Okay.
Well, when I ask Grok, say, I need to do X with metrics, it keeps giving me V2 metrics. So basically, it is complete code. It is technically correct, but it won't build my environment because I'm not using V2, I'm using V1. So I keep having to say, don't do this, don't do this. Right. That's not available. So things like that crop up. So you still have to have some level of reasoning to be able to use, Grok effectively.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about AI is it's so new. Like it's got to get smarter as time goes. So it's the more people use it, the smarter it gets.
Yeah. And I've actually and I wrote up an article like this. I haven't published it yet, but it is an article describing how I'm using Grok to write articles. So basically, the first paragraph is basically me, basically speaking about it, what I've been doing with it. But the rest of it was written by Grok, and I left it alone.
Oh, really?
Well, and the funny thing
is, good or bad it is,
right? And the thing is that you'll actually see how he gets these little, earworms, right? It's like, how you can get a song stuck in your head. Grok or any AI would end up doing the same thing, and the longer a session goes, it just picks up things and it just sticks with them, even though that it shouldn't. So basically, I kind of describe Grok the way it is actually helping with the technical stuff, like with my Kubernetes cluster, it's helping me. With the programming, it's helping me. I describe it as a genius toddler.
Genius Tyler. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But that's the way it kind of turns out. So it's mostly for fun, but self-edification. And if I'm able to actually verify it, I provide links. I'm trying to do everything transparent and above board as I can. And and it actually is kind of cool. So one of the articles that I wrote actually kind of was spawned from a debate coming up on X. A lot of people want to throw shade. There's maximalists in every coin there is. There's XRP maximalists. It's like
everything. That's everything in this world. I mean, you can research and support your theory or your mindset and anything you want to in this world with the internet.
Mhm.
So it's like when it's I don't know. It's tough because it's like you can, and honestly, I'm sorry, I'm going on a little derailing here for a second, but honestly, that's kind of I feel is part of the problem and why people have such strong opinions nowadays, because they can literally go online and find people with that same opinion and find articles and find any research, I guess you could say, on their own opinion and enforce that opinion. So then it becomes so strong in their mind that they become very opinionated about it, and I just wish people would be more open-minded and not be only in their opinion but also respect other people's opinion, because that's what we're about. We're all different. It's anyways. So that's sorry, little tangent. The basically that's the thing about even crypto, I'll bring it back, is no matter what coins you support or you're passionate about, you can find research or find articles to build that passion and become, I guess, don't become narrow-minded is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's like step out of your comfort zone and be careful of echo chambers.
Yes, exactly. You can surround yourself with yes men all your life and you won't grow, but the people who grow are the ones that surround themselves with the people who go against the grain of their opinion.
Yeah.
You'll see. There's books written about that. That's so it applies, I think, to this 100%, because you could easily get down into a tunnel of just seeing what you want to see and surround yourself by people who are seeing the same thing, and makes you believe in even stronger. So, anyways,
yeah.
So go back to your opinion on that, what you're talking about. Sorry.
My opinion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's like we are very opinionated. So
yes.
Exactly. So what came up as the argument, and people were going back and forth. There was actually some people that were trying to say, is this like you should be making this comparison? So basically it was, could HBAR flip XRP? Because there's a lot of talk about HBAR recently. You have WiseKey putting it onto SpaceX, putting it to satellites or being launched into space by SpaceX. You actually have them actually integrating in with Intel CPUs and NVIDIA, architectures, for AI work. In my opinion, at this point, it's going to be really hard to say that HBAR is not going to survive into the future. Right. The amount of integrations, the enterprises that are on board, there's a lot of real talk that's around it. So basically the concept, and we're talking about market cap. So basically I'd have to look it up unless you have it really fast, but I think HBAR is still trailing. I don't have 360 up offhand. I think it is that there's a massive gap in market cap between HBAR and XRP. I mean, XRP is leading by miles.
Yeah.
So basically that's the argument. So I decided, well, what about adoption, right? So could HBAR flip XRP in rate of adoption? And effectively that's what the article is. And it actually reads really well. I would actually suggest people go and read it. But then I'm just going to leave it that there, and then just basically say this as the way I see it. It's comparing apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
So HBAR is developed as a general purpose smart contract graph, because it's not technically not a blockchain, it's a DAG.
Yeah.
So it's architected slightly differently, but it is but what its actual purposes and uses are slightly different than the design of XRP.
Mm-hmm.
XRP is built around on-demand liquidity, the ODL.
So actually, HBAR uses hash graphs and consensus mechanisms to process transactions. That's what you're talking about, hash graphs. Yeah.
Yep.
It's pay transaction fees. HBAR is used to pay for application transaction fees such as transferring HBAR, minting tokens, and calling smart contracts. XRP is mostly, to me, about cross-border transactions.
Right. But that raises some interesting questions, because there's other follow-on articles where Swift started testing with Hedera.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, there's a huge so there's this huge thing actually happening where, Swift is basically doing everything they can to make sure that they're not going to blockbuster themselves.
Right.
It's smart. So that means that, and the thing is that the way geopolitics is lining up, things are ending up in this weird space. And again, that's why I'm invested in HBAR, I'm invested in XRP, right?
Well,
so it's like I'm diversifying myself out, because
right.
I don't know who's going to win effectively this battle. And when you're actually talking about this, like just today, for example, Zelensky came back to the negotiating table. So, there's that whole thing. But the European Union as a whole was like, well, if Trump doesn't want to fund Ukraine, we're going to give him 800 billion euros, almost €1 trillion. Right? So basically, the European Union is almost trying to do the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. So if we're over here supporting US coins, they're going to try to say, okay, well, what could we support, or what are they not supporting, even if they are US? So now you have this dynamic going around the world that is just getting extraordinarily weird.
Right.
Well,
so, all right, here's the concept. And I think we've kind of talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
So just right now, this just popped in my head, here we're off the cuff. So the HBAR, so it's used for hash graph consensus mechanism process transactions. So it's used for transactions. So like sort of like locally, like essentially like if you're making a transaction here locally in the US, XRP is a fast, low cost cross-border payments. That's what they're, facilitating.
Mm-hmm.
What in the IT world, we deal with especially like Kubernetes, right? It's mm-hmm. a stack. It's a stack of different pieces of technology that create this entire infrastructure essentially mm-hmm. to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Basically
the architecture.
Yeah, the architecture. So I kind of see where like crypto essentially could become a stack. Mm-hmm. It's like there's this thing you want to do, and you have to create a stack of the different technologies in crypto, together to make it happen. So it's like transaction, for example. So sorry, let me finish. My thought here. The transaction essentially can happen. You got whatever our currency is. Let's say the dollar right now is. You're taking that dollar and you want to move it across to be a euro, right? Mm-hmm. Into another country. So you could potentially use HBAR to take the dollar to HBAR, transact across XRP to the other country, whatever crypto on that end potentially, then back into euro. So it's like a transaction, complete mm-hmm. stack of things happening essentially. Mm-hmm. Obviously there's way more other things that could be done contracts, whatever, for other beyond my mind of things that could be done. But yeah, that's what.
No, yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's actually perfect the way you said that, because one of the things that and the reason why I'm experimenting with Grok, and I'm trying to keep the prompts that I actually give him directly as general as possible,
Mm-hmm.
And then let him hallucinate. I use him instead of it, so but I let him hallucinate to postulate different possibilities. And I take a look at what he comes up with. And sometimes they're absolutely brilliant. Be like, this is the way we need to actually frame this, and let's dive it into it this way. So that way we actually have a focus for the article and then write it out. So one of the ideas that I actually had, and I'm still trying to figure out how to frame the prompt right to remove bias, is, I've already introduced, and to basically my the instance that I'm running right now is that I firmly believe that the future is going to be multi-chain, but I don't know what that means. So basically, then have Grok basically come up with categories, and there's going to be basically a crypto or more than one crypto that fits in those categories, and effectively that becomes the multi-chain future, and that turns into effectively the article. Why did he choose these categories? How did these things fit? And potentially even give them enough room to where to say, well, a crypto could be in more than one category, but only one can be in a category, in a category. So in other words, you can't pair them up, So basically, you can say there's going to be in categories. Here's the list, but this one actually satisfies these categories. That sort of thing. Just give him enough leeway, because he's able to reason about what their capabilities are, and to come to basically a rough conclusion.
Right.
That's something that I've been toying around with. I just don't know exactly how I want to phrase it yet, so that way I don't introduce my bias.
Yeah. So essentially, you're almost using Grok to give you an idea of what could be sticking out in the future, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Intelligently,
yes.
Yeah.
And it's really good at doing analytics.
Yeah.
When it comes to human behavior, geopolitics, it has having a really hard time. There was a thing about Trump threatening to leave NATO, and the potential side effects of it. And I basically tried to ask some questions on X and wasn't really getting some clear answers. They were relatively vague. And when I asked Grok, he basically spelled out doom and gloom for the United States. Short term and long term, it was like doom and gloom for the United States. He was like, well, bring about isolationism and all these other key terms that people bring about. And I'm like, well, just because we don't want to be involved or entangled in alliances that'll get us into another world war doesn't mean that we're not going to be trading with other countries. It's like those are two separate things. You're not isolated if you're trading.
Right.
You
can still be at war with a country and still trade.
Right. So,
well, you kind of brought up the whole thing. That's interesting, because that's another one with the whole it's Ukraine president.
Zelensky.
Zelensky sitting down with the president in the Oval Office, and there's been so much stuff about that right now. I think it's really I think people are just jumping on something because they didn't like the way Trump treated Zelensky, but also a lot of people aren't realizing Zelensky used that situation to bring up stuff that he should not have brought up on television. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing, because it's everybody's attacking Trump for being so and even JD, he was they were this there's pictures circulating of them just and then Zelensky's sitting there his head down, and it's well, yeah, because he was trying to strong arm the president, is pretty much what happened. And Trump's not a person to strong arm. He's not he's
right, and he's not going to bend over. And
yeah,
I've actually said this a lot of times, and I've had more time to think about it. And Trump's actually completely right. The war never should have happened, because when you actually take a look at the NATO map, the NATO map of what countries are NATO, and NATO's almost completely taken over the border of Russia. And as far as Russia's concerned, you don't have to, be how they phrase it, sympathetic or anything like that. It's just like, just view it from their angle of it. NATO's a threat to Russia, period. Russia needs the Crimean port because it's the only freshwater port they have easy access to, period. 2 asks, Ukraine, please don't join NATO. I need access to the Crimea for the freshwater ports. That put a lot of negotiating power on Zelensky.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I want free oil for life for my country.
Right.
Right? I mean, he's like, go for the big ask.
Yeah. Exactly.
But he was like, no, NATO, I need you.
Yeah. Well, he
gets invaded.
Yeah, he wants NATO because he knows once he's part of NATO, then we have to help him.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is like, if he joins NATO, if we allow him to join NATO, like we're screwed essentially. Right. Like we're walking into another world war. You think it's not gonna be, but it's if Russia, we have to go against Russia at that point. Right. Who's gonna back Russia?
Right. China.
It's like
there's other ones. China, North Korea, Iran. You can go through the entire list. Yeah. BRICS nations.
China's the big one.
Yes.
And it's like so that I just don't think people understand that Trump is trying to literally avoid World War II. Like literally, it's like, and I just gotta understand why people are so. Like, oh, he was so rude to Zelensky, and now everybody's doing their Ukraine flags on their pages now, like support Ukraine. And it's like, no,
pack a bag, go over there and find out.
Exactly.
Because you know what they're going to do? As soon as you get off the plane, they're going to conscript you and put you on the front lines.
Exactly. And we've been supporting them. That's the thing. We've been giving them millions of dollars, and it's done nothing. It's done nothing. We have.
The thing is, though, is that this was amended by Zelensky, and I think this came out like what was it? Within the last 2 weeks. We sent them $175 billion. Less than $100 billion actually made it to them.
Yeah.
Where'd the rest of it go?
Well, that's that's why we have Doge now.
But yes, it's just like so Zelensky's got zero negotiating power with the United States or Trump.
He has negotiating power with Russia, but
no. As soon as
I don't think he does anymore at this point.
Once he let it go to a hot war, that was it. There was no negotiating power left.
Right.
So at this point, the only thing he's got left is to raise a white flag, be like, okay, guys, I'm sorry, and then back out of it.
Yeah.
That's all he's got left, in my opinion. But I'm not the expert. I'm going to leave that, to the experts.
Right.
But
I mean, it's an endless war. They're literally in an endless war right now. They're literally in a
it's a meat grinder.
Like in the Middle East. It's the same thing. Like there's endless the wars that are endless because it's all religious wars, and essentially this isn't religious, but it's kind of the same. It's crazy, and I just don't think it's. I wish people would just see that, like, and get off this.
Because
don't get me wrong, I feel bad because they are not. It's not like it's these people lived lives very similar to ours, and now they're not. Their world is falling apart.
Well, the goal is to stop death and human suffering.
Yes, exactly.
Ending the conflict does that.
Yes. And do you think that if we allow him to join NATO and we end up in another world, you don't think that could happen here? That's the thing. That's what I'm like. That I don't think people realize. Like, look at that. Look at what's happening there. That could be here.
It's like, and I had to explain this recently. Is this like, it's like the reason why this was such a big deal to Putin and why it was such a big deal to Russia. Imagine our biggest adversary on the world stage is China. Imagine them making a deal with Mexico, and they put a military base right on the other side of our southern border.
Yep.
How would we react?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so like we would actually kind of get belligerent. It's like, no, you need to cancel that deal. No, you need to cancel that deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it would get nasty.
It would get nasty really quick. This is not that
This is
dissimilar.
nothing now. Yeah, this is nothing right now. Because that's the other thing too. He's like, oh yeah, like during his address, he was talking about how Mexico gave up. I think it was like something 7 or more cartels and stuff like that, and like just they're trying to play nice now, and some of it. I don't know how much of it's just him voice thing, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how things shake out because eventually, now reality catches up with rhetoric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they say he's been one of the most transparent presidents we've ever had. They hold press releases constantly. So it's
no binder.
What's that?
No binder.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing what you can remember when you're actually speaking the truth.
Right. Yeah, that's anyways, I digress. So
well, same here.
But I think I'm about out. How are you doing over there?
Oh, I've been out for a hot minute.
Okay. So we tie it up?
No, well,
or you want to bring something else up because you had some other stuff that you want to talk about. But.
Well, so here's something that was interesting. So my confusion about ISO 222. So Grok actually confirmed this, and actually this is the reason why I'm using Grok. Let me see if I can't find the phrase in here. And I'm trying to work on this. So I'm trying to get the professionalism up a little bit higher because some people, actually one person I previewed some stuff to didn't like the way it was phrased. So so there's things that are tweakable. Okay. So it's a key to playing with the big dogs. No blockchain gets an ISO 222 compliant trophy from some suit. So that was the quote from Grok. Okay. So that's the way I phrased it. So there's no client compliance committee to say that this blockchain is compliant. John L. Woods actually did a interview recently. I can't remember if it was AJ Wright's Crypto or if it was dude, I'm kind of brain farting. I'm sorry, but
no, that's fine.
I'm apologizing to you guys just in case. But they did an interview with John L. Woods, the chief technical officer of Algorand, and this actually resolved my confusion and how any smart contract crypto could be compliant or handle messages. There is no baked-in way of the Algorand protocol to directly handle ISO 222 messages. But he sees no reason why a decentralized application couldn't create a smart contract that would be able to handle those messages. So that means that pretty much any blockchain that's capable of handling smart contracts could theoretically handle ISO 222.
Okay. But that's all about the security stuff, right?
That's actually the bank messaging.
Okay. So I don't know much about it. Yeah, that's
right. So the ISO 222 is the messaging standard that replaces Swift messaging.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So even Swift is upgrading from their plain text style to ISO 222. That's why they're test bedding different blockchains to see how they can actually upgrade their system to become more efficient.
I gotcha.
So basically the world is moving to it as the future of bank messaging. So that's going to happen with or without Swift. That's why I mentioned earlier that Swift is doing what they can to not become the next Blockbuster. So right. So they are moving towards it. They're testing, and they're integrating with Link or Chainlink. They've tested HBAR. I'm sure they've tested other blockchains. So things are going to get interesting. That's why, the conversation did come up about trying to compare and contrast XRP, and the ODL is built, the protocol's built to handle ISO 222, right? So there is a difference, but XRP itself, as we've talked about before, is not a smart contract chain. So they've talked about, well, how do they patch it in? Do they allow a side chain to handle smart contracts? So basically, as of right now, XRP is definitely its own thing, riding its own lane.
Right.
Well,
yeah. That's the thing. XRP has their own whole blockchain and everything, so they could potentially become a replacement, but they also are trying to play good, play well with the current. So it's.
So that was kind of interesting. So that was another one that I put together, and it kind of explained it a little bit better to where, again, I'm doing this, to try to better do my own research and to distill it down in a way that actually can be shared with others to hopefully share that research outwards.
Right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll close it out.
Yeah, that was it. All right, everybody. There you go.
There it is. Yeah.
So this was another episode.
Yeah. So if you want to see some more, like us, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time, folks.